G'day, welcome back to the Armory. In today's video, we're tackling the challenge of building an armorer's workstation, or as it's known, in other words, a stake stand. What are stakes though? Stakes are these metal forms which we use in the armory process to form the hot steel over. They need to go into something that's real solid, real strong, and isn't gonna go anywhere. And the other thing we need to be able to do is switch them out so we have different shapes for different parts of the process. The best solution for that problem is a bench, which we can chuck all those stakes in and move from station to station as we're forming the pieces. Now, at the moment, we have this setup, which is sort of a single frog, single hole for the stakes to slip into. And that's great. We can work on this station, we can get around it. We've got our stakes hiding around it here, and I can switch those in and out as I need a new one. But once again, that's gonna slow our process down a bit. It's not the most efficient way to do things. What would be nice is to have a bit of a longer bench with all the stakes in it for the project that we need, so we can go from stake to stake as the process requires. And here's all the materials that I've collected for our project. Now, yesterday, I scooted on down to the local steel supplier to see if there was any scrap lying around for our project, and I came back with a few little treasures that I think we might be able to work into our project. And I also collected this behemoth of a piece of timber. Oh my goodness. This is a monstrous piece of a true Aussie ironbark timber. And here's an Aussie ironbark in its natural state. Ooh. She's 250 millimeters by 250 millimeters by 1.5 meters. She is an absolute monster and insanely heavy. She's probably a bit of an overkill for what we need, but you know what they say when it comes to timber, bigger is always better. So first things first, we've got to get her trimmed down and then sand her all over so she's nice and smooth. Look at the size of this thing. Whoa, what a massive piece of timber. Whew, that was a lot of work. Oh yes. Smooth as a baby's bum. Oh yeah. I'm glad we did that outside of the workshop and not inside the workshop, because that's a very dusty process, but you still can't escape the classic Aussie mugginess of a summer's day. Whew. She's a hot one. Woo! So good. Well, all the sanding's done. Time to run off to Bunnings, grab a few extra supplies, grab a snag, and then jump back into the process. The most essential tool in the art of barbecuing is the tongs. Oh no, wrong set of tongs. The tongs, much better. We're just gonna give those snags a little twistaroo. Barbecuing in Australia is at the heart of the culture, pinnacle of existence. Nothing better in the midst of some hard yakka than a snag in a piece of bread with some onion on top of the sausage. So our frame has a couple of key components. One is the box section, I guess, that holds that big piece of timber that we were just sanding. Second section are the legs. There's 4 of them. We've got to cut those out. They're going to have a 10-degree slope on them just for a bit more stability. We're going to put some 10mm plate on the feet of those to anchor it to the floor at some point, and then there's also a bracing structure between those legs. So let's get that all cut out and start assembling. of the things I like most about the process is taking something that's scrap, that's just so happens to be almost perfect for the job that you're working on, and then working that into your design with some other materials, bit of new stuff, bit of old stuff, bringing that all together is something so satisfying at a very fundamental level about all of that. That is nice and tight. It's fitting to the wood just fine, just where we need it to be. Now we can get some tacks on it, get the frame welded together. Excellent stuff. Let's do some welding. Now, historically, armourers would have just mounted their stakes into stumps, into big logs, and burned them in a more permanent setting. In today's day and age, tinsmiths or sheet metal workers have things called stake plates, which is sort of like thick pieces of steel with a lot of different size holes in them for them to be able to switch their stakes in and out of. Now here in Australia, I've looked everywhere and I can't find a blimmin' Pexo stake plate anywhere. So we're gonna be making our own variant of that, combining the historical idea with the modern idea. Just like, wow, that was loud. Roughed in, mostly finished. A few little lines to straighten up, some edges to profile on it. That's most of the material filed down to make the reinforcement plates around the holes for the stakes. Let's see how it fits into a stake. Where did I put them? This will work. Bit of a creasing stake. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And our frame is done, which is awesome. I've also blended in some of these welds with the grinder and we've given it a coat of paint to finish it off. I love that hammered charcoal finish. It's my favorite paint for finishing steel here in the workshop. You'll see it on a lot of things. I love it. It's industrial, it's sexy, it's the best. What we also have, I've drilled in these holes all the way around the frame to screw our piece of timber securely to the frame. And I've added this rail system underneath, which is for holding all the stakes that we might be using in the process. And that'll keep them nice and neatly organized while I'm working at this bench. Now, they may rattle around a little bit with some of the vibrations that go through, so I'm gonna add some timber or some rubber in the future if I find that that's an issue. But I'll have to use it to know whether I need that or not. So we'll leave that till then. But what is important is to make sure that when you're working on these stakes, that they are set at the exact right height for you to get the work done. Now for me, the comfortable height to be working at for armoring is around 1 meter to 1.10 meters. And that's a great height because that's what enables you to get close enough to the work to have enough detail, but a good amount of force into it as well. Now that's gonna vary depending upon how tall you are and what feels comfortable for you. But absolutely, you don't want to be down here hammering like grandma, oh yes, or way up here with your shoulder joint getting worn out and in a really awkward position. None of those are good. What you want is that nice comfortable position just under 90 degrees in a place where you've got control and you've got a bit of force to put into the work. Now in forging, that's usually down here around wrist height. Armoring is a little bit higher. It's a little bit of a difference between blacksmithing and armoring. But all that said, you want to make sure that the timber or the plate that you're going to be using to put the stakes in and the frame that it sits in end up being at the right height. For me, that's 750 millimeters, whatever it is for you, find what that is and get the project done. Now, let's get on to putting some holes into our piece of timber to mount those stakes into so we can get started doing some armoring. Let's go. All right, I'm finally happy with the layout that we've got here. It's all worked out. It took us a little bit of time. Me and my cameraman did a little bit of thinking about it, a little bit of debating and discussion to find the optimal layout for these stake holes. Maybe a little bit too much thinking, but anyways, we have our layout and design. Now, we had to consider a couple of things in this because we could have gone with a symmetrical design and had all of the stake holders in a nice, neat line, and that would have looked great, but that wouldn't necessarily have met the main requirement of our build, which is functionality. That's right. If we had to just whack them all in wherever we wanted to, then I would get disappointed when I couldn't get the material to work on the stakes the way that I needed it to. So, what did we consider? Well, a couple of things. One, the distance of the stake holder to the actual side of the stand. Because if these stake holders were in the center, chances are we might get a bit of interference trying to work the material around that stake. So the closer they are to the edge, the better. Number two thing was the distance that they were apart. Now, if they were all bunched together, well, we might have some interference, and then that would be useless and we would have failed in our goal of getting a well-organized stake stand. That all said, we also have some smaller little stake plates for the smaller diameter tapers. Most of them are a 40 by 40 taper, but some of them are a little bit smaller, around 30 by 30, so we've accounted for that in our design as well. I can work both sides, I have the space I need, and it's laid out in a pretty symmetrical way. So let's get on with chiseling in those holes, and we're only a few steps from finishing off this build. Let's crack on. That angle. Beautiful. We actually have some illustrations of armourers' workshops from the 15th century, and one in particular, Konrad Seusenhofer's workshop, armourer to Maximilian, Emperor Maximilian of the Holy Roman Empire, has this wooden bench with all the stakes in it and all his tools strewn all over it. Classic armourers with all their tools strewn everywhere. Things haven't changed that much in 500 years. But what's cool about that image is it gives us a bit of a benchmark that we can work towards in order to actually aim for something a little bit historical. A really cool armourer over in Sweden, Albert Collins, has tried to make a replica of this workbench which he uses for his armoury process. Now, you should go check him out on his YouTube channel, but he's done a really awesome job of trying to incorporate the historical techniques in every aspect of the craft of armour, from the tools, the stakes, the stands that he uses, and the craft that he actually produces. I've taken a bit of inspiration from his workbench, but we're gonna add a few little modern touches to it. Now I'm just gonna bring all of that together and see what we can come up with. Boy, these things took a while to file down, but we are finally done. We have it all laid out, we have all of our holes chiseled and burnt into our piece of timber. We have the steel reinforcement plates cut out and ready to support the stakes, and we have this border all the way around the outside. Now, all that remains to do is to chuck her in the stand, oil it up, and bring it all together. that looks just about snug. And now it's time to get some oil on it. Yeah. Look at that.
I'll stay inside the lines. Don't let my prayers go unanswered now. Bright nights, never lasting dark some days. Bright nights, wearing the stain you made of me, and I wait.
Yes! The stake stand 10,001, my friends. Guys, I am so happy with how this has turned out. We've got the contrast of that wood grain brought out by the linseed oil against the steel border with all the coach screw heads and the steel frame, and it is a thing of beauty. I am so happy with this station, and not only does it look good, but it meets the job of functionality and enabling us to form and work around multiple different stakes and multiple different holes. We can take them out, we can put them back in. This is just going to be a really solid and really awesome tool to have here in the workshop. And we've got a little row of stakes down here as well. The storage, just what more could you want, honestly? But thank you for coming along with us on this journey as we've met the challenge of trying to design something that can work to the task of enabling us to form armor, enable us to have a station where we can film at and get our pieces and projects created, and something that's going to look good in the workshop at the same time. I hope you've enjoyed coming along for the challenge, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content that we've been creating here. We can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, see you till next time. See you next time. See you later!